Jose Aldo and Merab Dvalishvili went to war this past weekend, with the tough Georgian scoring a decision win after 3 rounds. However, after the fight, Aldo repeatedly revealed his plans for the immediate future to his opponent, who spoke of his conversation with Aldo on the MMA Hour this past week. Today, we're discussing Dvalishvili claiming Aldo told him he's retiring after his UFC 278 loss. Stay right where you are. Let's jump straight in then. What did Merab have to say? Merab scored easily the biggest win of his career at UFC 278 last weekend, against former featherweight king Jose Aldo. The win will also have implications at the top of the bantamweight rankings, with Merab chomping at the bit for a title shot. Aldo was once one of the most dominant champions in featherweight history, and was unbeaten for 8 years across the late 2000s and early 2010s, encompassing some 18 fights. However, that much time in the game eventually takes its toll, and following last weekend's fight, Merab claimed on Ariel Helwani's The MMA Hour that Aldo told him, "I'm done." He said, "When he was down and I went to shake his hand and tell him thank you so much for the fight, and I go to respect him, he was down and I tried to help him. And he was telling me, he said, that means this is my last fight, because it was my last run to title." Before Merab went on to say, and then he said, "I guess I'm done." Whilst Aldo's retirement has been mooted for some time, this will come as a shock to the UFC as a whole, since he's been part of the furniture in the promotion for more than a decade. Merab went on to explain that it was a very emotional moment, before revealing that he told the legendary Brazilian that he was amazing, also telling him, "You're a king." What else do we know about the possible retirement then? Stay tuned to find out. Well, there's still no official word from Aldo's camp, and the former featherweight king also failed to lay his gloves in the ring following the fight, which so many fighters often do when they retire. The former WEC featherweight champ did take to his Instagram, however, posting an airport picture with his team. He captioned the photo with the message, "We are the story we write," before going on to suggest that God has a plan for everyone. As he wrote, "You may even doubt him, but he will always believe in you. He put you in this world to shine, to be better every day, to smile and make people around you smile. What matters is what makes your heart beat. Don't accept a less amazing life than you deserve. Thank you all for the affection I receive along my walk. This is priceless." And whilst there was no mention of the legend's retirement, it is thought that the Merab loss will have put a serious dent in any title aspirations he may have still harbored. And following Aldo's loss, the Georgian explained that it's difficult to see a former champ like this. However, he had been on a 3-fight win streak, so it's not as if he was experiencing the same fate as Anderson Silva towards the end of his UFC run. But Merab also said that fighters often don't realize when it's time to give it up. What do you make of Aldo's possible retirement? Next up, Khabib has doubled down on his stance that it's probably time for Aldo to call it. As one of the more dominant champions in UFC history, Khabib Nurmagomedov is well placed to comment on other fighters. Before Aldo's UFC 278 bout against Merab, the former lightweight king has suggested that Aldo's days were done, and even claimed after the Petr Yan fight that Aldo was more of a businessman than a fighter. Following the recent loss, Khabib has again been discussing Aldo, who had previously suggested the Russian was attention-seeking. The spat also saw Conor McGregor chime in defense of the Brazilian, which is a far cry from their relationship in the build-up to their 2015 world title fight. Speaking to Red Corner MMA this week, Khabib suggested that both Aldo and former middleweight champ Luke Rockhold are perfect examples of fighters who have gone on too long. He said, "Every single fighter has to face it. Same with Aldo. You saw his fight yesterday. No man can reach his prime twice. That becomes evident when you fight top opposition. Of course, both Aldo and Luke could still beat a lot of good fighters. But look at Merab. He's got 8 wins in a row. He's the kind of opposition that reveals your true level." Whilst there is probably some truth in Khabib's comments, Aldo nor his fans will want to hear it, and maybe the Russian needs some training in bedside manner. Do you agree with the Dagestan man's words? Give us your thoughts below. And now, Aldo has also questioned TJ and that drugs ban. Dillashaw fights for the UFC bantamweight crown against Aljamain Sterling next time out, but Jose Aldo isn't having him, nor his achievements. As someone who's won championships in 2 different promotions without resorting to cheating, Aldo is in the perfect position to be able to judge. Dillashaw was handed a 2-year ban after being popped for PEDs in the build-up to his fight with Henry Cejudo a few years back, a fight which he actually lost, proving the old mantra, cheaters never prosper. And whilst Dillashaw doesn't seem to care about the whole embarrassing episode, he has lost a ton of fans in the past couple years, ourselves included. Another man who doesn't appreciate his antics is Aldo, who earlier this month claims that his time has gone. The former featherweight champ went on to question all of Dillashaw's achievements in the octagon, suggesting that TJ might have been cheating all along. He said, "When anti-doping got more strict, he got punched twice and went down." Aldo then suggested that Sterling is the big favorite when the pair meet later this year for the bantamweight title, considering the fact that doping is much more strict these days. He claimed Dillashaw's biggest opponent is himself, saying, "He already starts with an opponent inside himself to see if he can do the things he did before the doping. So to me, Sterling is a big favorite in this fight. Who you got?" So what's next for Merab? Stick around to find out. Well, following his decision win over Aldo, Merab extended his career record to 15-4 and has now won his last 8 in a row. That puts him in a pretty handy position in the bantamweight rankings and pretty much confirms his claims on the next title shot. However, as we well know, the UFC is not a meritocracy, so if Dana White sees an opportunity to make more money for himself and the company by possibly ordering the Yan trilogy fight if he gets past Sean O'Malley, then he would almost certainly take it. But as of right now, Merab is probably the best place to claim dibs on whoever comes out on top at UFC 280 this October. There is a bit of a problem, however. Merab and Sterling actually trained together at Matt Serra and Ray Longo's gym in Long Island, which Joe Rogan asked the Georgian about in his post-fight interview last weekend. Dvalishvili claimed he would never fight his teammate, which Matt Serra has also backed up this past week. So if Sterling retains his title against Dillashaw, that would almost certainly mean Merab would have to look elsewhere in the division. Could that mean a title eliminator against Corey Sandhagen? Potentially, but then we would still have the same problem if Sterling goes on to defend his crown again. The situation's all a bit messy for Merab at the moment. What do you guys think he should do? And finally, the Georgian has called out the UFC for their flag ban. Stay with us. After Putin's illegal invasion of Ukraine earlier this year, UFC bosses banned fighters walking out with flags of their native countries. It was thought this was to stop Russian athletes showing support for the tyrant Putin. And following his win over Jose Aldo this past weekend, Merab Dvalishvili let his feelings about the issue be known. A proud Georgian, Merab would have loved the chance to shout out his people after the biggest win of his career by displaying the red and white crosses, but it wasn't to be. Appearing on the MMA Hour earlier this week, Merab called out the UFC, saying, "Why can't we bring our flags to the octagon? I started this sport because I wanted to represent my country internationally. I made it, but I can't bring my flag? I want to show people that I'm from a small country and make Georgians proud. Why can't I represent my country?" Fair enough. What do you guys make of the issue? As usual, thanks for joining us today, and remember to tune in again next time when we'll be discussing all sorts of other cool bits and pieces. And why not do us a solid by liking and sharing today's video, whilst also subscribing to our channel so you don't miss out on more great content in the future. Bye guys!